Game of the day. BongoBanjo versus Nelfeal. Sasha versus Max.
Welcome back to the channel, folks. Semi-original guy here, aka Mr. Cannon from Advance Wars by Web, bringing you another live league game of the day. Today, folks, we are playing on Lefty. This is a standard matchup with base light, 2 bases, an airport, and comm tower support. We got BongoBanjo and Nelfeal as our players today, playing as Max and Sasha. Now, Lefty is a pretty interesting map, folks. It's a very slow reinforcement range for those bases to actually get into the middle. And this map is pretty much split down the middle when you consider contested properties. So when we're dealing with this, I would say your main contested properties are obviously just the ones in the middle here. Those are the guys that can flip either way. But in addition to that, you do have to choose what to do with your bases here. This base obviously is responsible for capturing all of this area here. This base is responsible for attacking this area and securing the mid, but this base also pushes mid here. So a base light matchup, you really have to determine what you are going to be doing with these bases early to get a really good game plan. Now, aside from that, folks, the comm tower is mildly contested a little bit. Not really, a little bit though. The comm towers can easily flip if you end up losing this front. If you invest too much into the center here, you may potentially lose this front over here, and vice versa. If you invest too much over here, you might lose the front over here. So I think we're going to have a very interesting map here, folks. Interesting game in general. So the Sasha versus the Max dynamic here is pretty interesting because Sasha will get additional funds every single turn, but lack the firepower that Max will have. And Max, being a 3-star normal co-power, could potentially bust out a mid-turn Max Force if BongoBanjo is not prepared for that. So, without further ado, folks, let's go ahead and see what went down in the live league today. On the first few days, folks, you all know the deal. It is the standard infantry build because you got to get the infantry on the field. It is the #1 priority in Advance Wars by Web. #2 priority in Advance Wars by Web. Folks, make sure you like and subscribe to the channel for all that hot live league action. Now, so far, these strategies are basically mimicked. I do agree that jumping to this middle property first, capturing that is vitally critical to the success of this mission, as this infantry can now move right beside the HQ and immediately start capturing the contested properties, which, as discussed earlier, folks, is very important to the overall success of the mission. Now, BongoBanjo, you know what? We're actually going to switch BongoBanjo. Let's just make Bongo, gray. We're going to make him gray, because gray is a little bit easier to see. Yes, that's what we're going to do. So we're not going to start over. We're just going to turn to gray now, and everybody can deal with it. That's just the way it is, folks. Alrighty, folks, let's continue on here. Now, it looks like Nelfeal has actually moved an infantry in position to capture one of the contested properties. However, it does appear like a Bongo is in position to interrupt that capture if he chooses to do so. Now, and if he does go in and interrupt this capture, could potentially go in with 1 infantry. If he goes in with a single infantry, he loses the infantry. If he goes in with 2 infantry, there is the possibility of not losing an infantry depending on the roll. But if he goes in for the attack, he's going to be backed up by a tank. He could potentially go for this capture right here, which will allow him to maybe get the capture but forego this capture. Or you could go in and interrupt and then go over here, capture the property, which may or may not work out in his favor. But let's see what Bongo decides to do here. Very curious to see what the man's got planned for this battle here. He's going for the neutral property, and he's not even going for the interrupt, folks. Now, not going for the interrupt here is not necessarily a bad thing, too. You do net yourself potentially 1k income right here, and have an infantry ready to capture the comm tower, which is going to be very essential to the success of Sasha being a base firepower CO. She doesn't have any firepower bonuses, and when you're fighting Max, who's got plus 20%, going to be a plus 130% with the comm tower here. I mean, firepower is definitely important, folks. You got to get the firepower on the field. Number 3 priority in advances by web. Got a battlecopter over here from Nelfeal now. Very, very strong battlecopter indeed. Does not look like Bongo is going to be able to push up with the tank and attack the infantry now due to this tank being in position to sit on the city. So that is very unfortunate. I don't know what he's going to be planning on doing with that tank now, but he's doing something. All right, he's sitting on the shoal, which is protected from the tank, and the battlecopter moves into the middle of the map. Now, battlecopters are very, very, very strong on base light matches. You got to get air units on the field. If you don't, you're going to be having a bad time, folks. A lot of people, a lot of games that I see that involve base light with airport, a lot of people will lose the matchup because their opponent manages to buy a battlecopter first, and the other player does not have the funds to get a battlecopter infantry and is forced to go anti-air or something, which puts them behind an overall unit count, and then their opponent is just able to buy another tank, another battlecopter, yada yada yada, continue the flow of the match there, and eventually win through sheer numbers. And that is very unfortunate sometimes, folks, but sometimes we all get caught in the anti-air trap. Anti-airs, incredible units, love a good anti-air, folks, but if you are going to be going against a battlecopter, sometimes just finding a battlecopter, getting a battlecopter on field, and just starting that battlecopter brawl is the way to go. Sometimes getting the anti-air is the way to go too, folks. Really just depends on the income. So, Bongo's now going to eat a tank strike. So he might potentially eat a tank strike here. And when we're dealing with max firepower here, we're dealing with the 130% firepower bonus here, folks. So it is going to hit for quite a bit of damage, as you can see here, 71 to 80%. Potential counterattack of 1 damage. Yeah, we're going to be hit for 1. If it's going to hit for 2, that is going to be the maximum possible roll, which is very unlikely. So what that would entail here is that this would go down to 9. All right, and if you swap the attack next turn, 60 to 69%, 21 to 24% counter attack. So you would be able to potentially win the overall tank battle, but it's not going to go without a cost, folks. That is for sure. All right. Max finding the only available location for the battlecopter to go right here, so very nice. That is out of range of everything. Out of range of everything. Ooh, the tank is actually safe now. Now this tank can go back and get some heals. This tank could go over and take the engagement. This tank will be destroyed next turn if it does that, due to the placement of the battlecopter. Now, it is possible that Bongo could potentially put the battlecopter over here, and then go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and that would cover the spot. So that would cover it from a potential battlecopter strike there. So I think Bongo has still got a couple tricks up his sleeve here. Definitely has some potential here. So let's see what he manages to do with this one. All right, going in for the attack. KOs the infantry, interrupts the capture, goes in for a capture of their own, then goes for that tank strike. Now that is protected right there, folks. This battlecopter here cannot go in for the strike. So going in for a solo tank versus a 2-tank scenario over here usually doesn't work out too well for the solo tank, because now the tank's got to run away. And if you look here, I mean, it's basically Bongo comes out on ahead, on top here a little bit, but it's still very early in the game, folks. It is only day 8. 2 battlecopters now go right to the front lines and are inviting in the battlecopter for an attack. Now this battlecopter could potentially go right here, interrupt, which would be a safe location. So I wonder if we're going to be seeing that. Nope, we're not going to be seeing that, folks. We're going to be interrupting with the infantry. So now I'm very curious to see what's going to happen here. Anti-air moves here. That'll be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So this battlecopter goes in for the engagement. That's going to start a battlecopter war, and that's going to be very, very risky. Very risky indeed. Doesn't get the KO there. Very sad. Very sad indeed. Alright, so the battlecopter war has begun, folks. But one thing that Nelfeal definitely has going for him here is the secondary backup battlecopter here. So if this battlecopter goes in for the engagement, yeah, it probably will KO this, or no, if BongoBanjo goes in for the engagement, it probably won't KO the infantry unless he backs it, or the battlecopter, unless he backs it up with like an additional 2 infantry strikes, in which he loses the battlecopter and all heck is going to be released, folks. So let's see what the plan is here. All right. Oh, he gets a roll. Nice. Nice. He gets the roll, folks. We rolling over here, folks, and we rolling good. All right, here we go. Eliminates another infantry. Well, almost eliminates. Big damage. Goes in for another heal. Activates market crash at the end of the turn. Was that... Oh, that was very unfortunate indeed. Very unfortunate indeed. He's got 18,200 funds available to him. He buys the unit. He buys the second unit. And then he pops market crash and just doesn't get the value out of it. Very unfortunate for BongoBanjo, but this is live league, folks. Mistakes do happen. Even the best players in the world will make a mistake. Oh, Nelfeal going for the triple. Oh, and pops the max force. Okay, the max force has been popped, folks. This is an incredible firepower bonus, +1 movement. And oh, there is definitely some value. There is some value from this attack, folks, but I wonder how much value at the end of the day it's going to be. So let's see. Definitely one shot that. But that's just a copter trade at the end of the day, because this guy's going to be coming over here, getting the trade. So at this moment, what Max really needs to do is he's got to keep up on the tank game. So let's see. Oh, he goes for the infantry. Interesting. I mean, going for the infantry is not necessarily that bad of an idea, but I feel like attacking the tank would have been pretty good. However, if he attacks the tank, you know, he eats a tank hit right here, but this, I don't know, I feel like that could have maybe worked, you know, it could have possibly worked. You never know at the end of the day, folks. Advance Wars is a very complex game, complex math, complex numbers. But at the end of the day, folks, you just tank spam. You just tank spam and you have yourself a good time. And that's how you play Advance Wars. Spam those tanks, get the tanks on the field, get that off of the field. Boom. Another battlecopter, another tank on the field. Beautiful stuff right here. 19 units to 14 units right now, folks. Max is definitely lacking on the units a little bit here. Will need to find some valuable KOs if he's going to stay in this game. Let's see what he manages to pull off here. Manages to type out 2 infantry, 3 infantry, 4 infantry. Or no, that was 3 infantry eliminated off of the battlefield. And now Max ahead in unit count once again. Now this is not going to last very long, folks, because there's definitely KO potential here. How much KO potential, though? Well, that is completely up to BongoBanjo. Let's see what he manages to figure out. Finds one attack there. Finds a second attack. Ooh, moves the tank up. Doesn't take the tank engagement. I mean, 7 to full, not really the best engagement you could take, but, you know, sometimes you just got to be a wild child, folks. You got to be a wild child. You got to go in for those attacks. Now, is it advisable to go in for attacks like that? Nah, probably not. But you know what? If you want to be a wild child, ooh, you can do those kind of things. So this attack right here actually makes it so Max cannot get a 2-hit on this, which is very, very unfortunate. I don't know if he really wants to push in and take that engagement anyways, because there's a lot of backup. There's a lot of backup over here, folks. There's a lot of tanks in position. There's a battlecopter in position. So I don't really know if that's necessarily the best move. But 1, 2, 3, 4 tanks, folks. We got 4 tanks over here. Is Bongo going to push into those 4 tanks? Or is he going to hold back and see what happens here? Boom, big old battlecopter strike, big old tank cleared. Another tank shot, pops the market crash. And this time he pops it with money in the bank, folks. So that's the way you gotta be market crashing every day. Boom, big old KO there. Now that was a KO that was not necessarily guaranteed. But definitely had potential, but it wasn't guaranteed. Normally it's about a, well, it's guaranteed if you have 120% firepower, which BongoBanjo does now have, but the first attack he took was only 110% firepower. So definitely lower odds, but not impossible odds. Definitely good odds, but not guaranteed. I think that's what we're dealing with, and then we're not dealing with that again. For some reason, one of my fingers just wants to click when it shouldn't. That's what's going on. Get the fingers off the field, folks. We don't need them. Alright, boom! Big old tank strike. Look at that guy sitting down at 1 HP. Very unfortunate indeed. Ooh, another tank strike right here. This massive damage. Battlecopter finds another place where it can just bully the infantry over here. Anti-air now in position to back up the tanks, but Max needs more tanks. He needs tanks in the middle of the map. If he does not get the tanks in the middle of the map, he is going to be having himself a bad time. Now, there is definitely some potential here, folks. There's some potential that could happen here. Maybe battlecopter, move tank back, clear with tank. No, move tank back, battlecopter, clear with tank, 7 HP into anti-air. That's definitely a possibility. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Ooh. Ooh. Ooh, folks. I don't think that clears, though. Let's just check. I'm very curious here. Not necessarily that, you know, BongoBanjo is going to go in for a move like this. Yeah, it's not going to clear anyway, so definitely not necessarily worth it. Would do a hefty amount of damage. Now, what I was considering is moving this back, moving battlecopter here, clearing with the tank right here, eliminating this tank, moving in with 7 HP to attack this, but I guess the rest of the move wouldn't actually work because this path is not clear. So at the end of the day, it's not going to work anyways. Unless 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's an attack here. I don't think that clears, but maybe anti-air plus infantry clears here, and then maybe there's a way to clear this tank, but probably not. Maybe this. I don't know. Doesn't even matter, folks. Let's see what BongoBanjo actually decides to do. This is the most important thing. Ooh, blocks it. Attacks. Goes in with that tank. Ooh, gets the clear there. Alright, 7 HP attacks. Alright. Now, there's no follow-up attack to that, so it is just 5 damage. But, due to this infantry being here, that actually prevents the battlecopter from getting over here. Or not battlecopter, from anti-air from at least looping around over here. It can loop around here and get an attack. So, anti-air is going to get some value next turn. But not as much value as it could possibly have gotten. And BongoBanjo manages to clear a lot of units here, folks. Max 11 minutes and 52 seconds on the clock. Bongo only 3 minutes and 23 seconds on the clock on day 14. So he's definitely gonna manage that time a little bit better, folks. But you know, you can manage your time really good, or you could win the game. It's two things you could do, folks. If you spend a lot of time plan out your moves and you win an early game, then that's okay. But now he's dealing with time crunch. Time crunch is a very dangerous thing in Advanced Wars, folks, especially Live League. Let's see what he manages to do. Gets a clear there, easy peasy lemon squeezy. Attacks a tank, gets an interrupt, goes for a luck roll, doesn't get it completely, does do 1 damage, so that's okay. But oh my god. Yeah, so that's not too bad, but actually these tanks are completely ruined. Completely ruined. They're not going to do anything. They got no chance. No chance. They all got to run away. That guy's not getting away anyways, so yeah, you might as well just attack. Ha, it doesn't get to clear. Very, very unfortunate. Very unfortunate indeed, folks. Highly unfortunate. Oh, well, that's okay. Day 15, pretty good move over here. Bongo is allowed to lose some units here, though. You know, he's very head on units, so overall, it's not really the worst thing for him to lose a couple units. Right now, if he can at least keep that unit count advantage really high, it's in a pretty good spot. His overall value is relatively... Well, I mean, it's definitely more. He's about 1 day income ahead of Max at the moment. About to be 2 day income ahead of Max. So let's see. I don't think there's really going to be much else fighting this turn. Just a little bit of push up here. A little bit of battlecopter movement. A little bit of artillery joining the party, folks. The soap cannon is here. Let's see what it manages to do. Day 16. And Max is on the retreat, folks. Max is on the retreat. He can't push into this right now. He needs to have something in place so that he can take out both battlecopters. But if he takes out both battlecopters, he's going to have to deal with a tank army. Definitely getting pretty dire over here, folks. Let's see. Let's see what he manages to do. It does look like Bongo is ahead by 1 property at the moment. This is also a very low income map, folks. It's like around 15 income split on either side. And just more tanks on the field. Oh my god. Day 17. And Max is moving in. He's moving the tanks in, folks. Eliminates a recon. And then that is the end of day 17, folks. Let's see what Bongo manages to do here. Goes in for a capture. Moves the artillery into position. Just gets... Whoa. Whoa. Anti-air in position to hit the battlecopter. This could potentially be a bait, though, folks. Sometimes people do this. They'll leave 1 unit in position. If he lures in the anti-air, well, then his battlecopters are going to be able to just roam around. Virtually uncontested, folks. So this, like I said, this could be a bait. I don't know. Looks like Sasha's got full super co-power right now, folks. So that's definitely, that can be back-to-back market crashes, or it could be a war bonds. We never know, folks. It is day 18, and oh my god, folks, oh my god, we got the war bonds. We got war bonds over here, folks. The unused super co-power of Advanced Wars of BioWeb. Now, for those of you that don't know, because war bonds never gets played, what war bonds will do is 50% of the damage you deal will be transferred into money. So the more damage you do, the more money you get, folks. And with 18,100 funds available, let's see what he manages to do here. There is plenty of strikes. That is $1,000. That is another like 1,000. That's like 4,000 right there. That's 3,500 again. Gets the clear. Another 3,500 in the bank. Sitting at 32,000 income right now, folks. Another hit, 33,850, 35,600 value, 37,700 value, 38,400 value is what we got right now. That is a lot of money, folks. That's enough money to get yourself 2 of the classiest units in Advances by Web. Or you could potentially buy 1 mega tank and something else that is really cool. Or you could be stinky, folks. Could be stinky. Got a battlecopter on the field. 29,400 funds left. The soiled abomination has made its way onto the field, stenching up the battlefield with its absolute filth. Now, in all reality, the Neo-Tank buy rate here is incredibly strong. Incredibly strong, folks. Day 19. Now we take a look at Max's income. 14,900. 14 units, 25 units, 134,000 value to 53,200 value. There's nothing that you can do in this position to keep in the game. Unfortunately, as soon as the stench appears on the map, the game is over. BongoBanjo played a fantastic game here, just absolutely dominating with the Sasha. Max, Nelfeal, played a fantastic game as well. Unfortunately, just wasn't able to keep up with the Sasha game here today, folks. Hopefully you all enjoyed that one, and if you did, consider leaving a like, comment, or subscribe to the channel if you were not already. I will see you on the next one. Take care of yourselves, and bye-bye for now.